Where'll you be going?
Texas?
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Go on, make it happen.
And now here's Steve and Michelle.
Straight from the heart of Dripping Springs, where the sunsets are gorgeous and the gossip is juicy. Welcome to Mallet and
Damn,
Michelle.
That's good. I like that. Did you just make that up on the fly?
I did. Hosted by me, Michelle Lewis, bringing all the jokes, and Steve Mallet here to fact check
With
me.
the dry humor. Well, welcome to 2025. 25 years since Y2K.
I know, isn't that crazy?
I know. And all of our younger listeners are going, what the hell is that?
We were talking about that yesterday, and you know, we're still of the age. I'm Gen X. You're the end of the boomer generation.
Yeah.
Or the silent generation. No, not really. The boomer generation.
The black and white generation.
The black and white. And when people still say 25 years ago, I honestly think 1975.
It's so true. Yeah, I think way, way back.
Oh, 1975. But I was 4. So I was 4 years old.
That's Holly has been alive as long in this century as the previous century now. So she was born in 75. So she'll be 50 this year.
This year she's going to be
50 years old.
Steve.
I know,
When's
pressure.
her birthday?
April 12th.
Oh,
1975. Yeah.
goodness gracious.
I didn't even hesitate. Sponsors.
We need to thank our sponsors for Chernomic Power Solutions.
Backup power generation. Jovi Belterra, 55 plus community. We love those guys.
South Star Bank.
And Mallet Integrity Team, real estate professionals.
Absolutely.
Yeah, call us for all your real estate needs. Our guest today, Trey Schmidt.
Wow.
From Twisted Electric. We've already recorded him.
Yes.
But, and he's a great guy. He's a journeyman electrician with them. Super interesting story. So
really
he'll
interesting.
be in here in a little bit.
He talks about the path, necessarily that college isn't for everybody. And he's a good kid. I've known him since he was a teenager. He is actually the son of the world famous.
She's been a guest.
She's been a guest. Amanda Anderson, the one and the only Amanda Anderson that created the Dripping Springs Neighbors page.
The infamous and famous Dripping Springs Neighbors page.
Which some say is very helpful and some say is a cesspool. But
and some say is just a world of comedy.
Just a world of comedy. Yeah, but Trey is a good kid. I mean, young man. He's a father for 2 little boys. And, I really
Smart
enjoyed
guy.
Sitting down with him and getting to know him better on that level.
And he helped me with learning a little bit more about electricity so I don't kill myself next time I'm changing a fan or a light fixture.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, New Year's resolutions. Do we have any New Year's resolutions?
Well, here's a list of places
Besides no junk January.
Well, that's true. Well, I've got that. So here's a list of places I will not be going in 2025. Okay, ready for that? Above and beyond.
Okay.
Back and forth and out of my way. That's part of my.
You will be going out of control.
I always.
That's your default mode is out of control.
True. I just don't have the time or the energy anymore. I'm a loyal person. I'm also getting older and I'm going to be a grandmother, so I need to act more grandmother, like whatever that means. But I will say, and you know this, I'll say the same thing in front of your back as I say behind your back.
That's true.
And people that aren't loyal to me, I have no use for them in my life. And it's not the fact that these people are toxic, but I'm not participating in that drama anymore.
Yeah, I'm with you. You remember Lisa Sullivan said, and we've talked about it on the podcast before, 25% of the people will love you, 25% of the people could care less, and 50% of the people could care less, and 25% of the people will hate you. Nothing you can do about that.
No.
So don't spend any time worrying about that 25% that throw hate your way all the time.
No, absolutely.
That's all on them. That's not on us.
Well, the most popular New Year's resolutions for 2025, there was a poll. I'm going to save the first one for last. One of them is, of course, every year people talk about they want to improve their physical health. The second one was improving their mental health. A lot of people talked about wanting to learn something new in 2025. Up to 70% abandon their resolutions within
2 weeks.
Yeah, the couple of months, first month.
No, it's 2 weeks.
Well,
it's 2 weeks.
This poll said after a couple of months, they're just totally
it's
done.
actually less than that. But
the number one thing, and it's kind of trending on social media, is no spend 2025 is to save money.
Interesting.
And there's a couple of criteria and rules that all over social media that people are saying to follow. Number one, no new clothes unless it's like a
I was
special
just going to
occasion.
say, I'm a trendsetter.
Okay.
I'm going to wear the same clothes all the time. It's my uniform.
I may not be able to follow that one because I'm a clothes hoe, so I don't know. No new shoes unless necessary.
Okay.
No.
Again, trendsetter right here.
Trendsetter. Oh, okay, Imelda Marcus.
Yeah, that's true. I do have a lot of shoes.
Yeah, okay.
You got me.
No new small appliances or home decor.
Okay.
No takeout, weekends only. No to-go coffees. No Starbucks.
I think that's a big one, man. You know, it used to be like coffee was like 50 cents or $1. Now you go drive through Starbucks and you get just a regular old coffee. It's like $9.
What was that coffee that came in the tin cans that were like this international coffee or what? Do you remember when that was the bougie coffee?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that
in the
stuff.
coffee cans.
Yeah, it was instant. You're going to use all products before buying new ones. All products. So, it's kind of hard in that sense. Like, you don't want to use all your face lotion and then like have to
But
go.
I think the idea of that is you don't go to Costco and buy 12 shampoos.
Yeah.
That's silly.
Well, here's something I think you and I are both very guilty of. No window shopping on Amazon. Like doom
I'm bad
scrolling.
about that.
Yeah, like,
I'm
oh
bad
yeah,
about
I
that.
needed that extra large paper clip because I think that would be cool.
Yeah.
But here's a couple of rules to help you, or here's a couple of parameters to kind of help you. 24-hour rule, okay? Like sending a gripe email, send the
I actually think it's a week. You say, oh, I need a new TV. Put it on a list, and a week later, come back to your list. And if you still think you need a TV, then go do it.
Okay, well that's a big purchase, but yeah. But
Are you talking about like just normal
like
stuff?
doom scrolling or,
Oh, yeah.
So 24 hours. But, we're just being so bombarded with advertisements and commercialism. Like even you and I having this conversation right now, something will probably pop up with International Coffee on one of our feeds
probably
because
true.
it's listening to us.
And
But
we're being advertised to in ways we don't even realize now. You read, like in Apple News, if you go through and scroll through, half of those articles are ads. They're written as editorials about some product, but there's a link to go buy that product. That's an ad. And you're like, oh, I want to know about this new car, and you start reading about it, and then you realize they're just selling me on this thing.
I know people were talking about the downfall of Pinterest and how Pinterest, I loved Pinterest. You'd go, you're just like, oh, I want to redo my closet, and you go get ideas, or oh, I want to look for an outfit. Let me scroll for an outfit. Every other article now is an advertisement, to click on this to go buy something.
You've gone to an app that just is completely advertising to you, and there's not as much good information.
Yeah,
as
it's useless. So you need to learn to say no to yourself, and that's the biggest person. That's the hardest person to say no to. I know that. I'm a very stubborn person. I won't even listen to myself sometimes. But here's an acronym to follow: HALT. Don't buy anything when you're hungry, when you're angry, when you're lonely, or when you're tired.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
I like
HALT.
that. Don't buy anything.
HALT.
Yes.
Hey, you. Don't touch me there. This is my no-no square.
I like that.
Yeah.
Going back to your resolutions things that you started this story off with about, I want to be more fit or I want to learn something new. One of the things I've learned about resolutions over the years, they need to be very specific. So you can't say, I want to go to the gym more often because, okay, how do you know if you made that? You need to say, I'm going to go to the gym 3 days a week. And then it's pretty easy to tell if you're making your goal or not.
I'm not a big resolution person, but I have one resolution that I am committed to doing. Besides the nosebit, is I'm going to read more books this year.
I've had that one the last couple of years and I have failed. But
I have
it's a
so
great
many
one to
books I have not read. I will read on the airplane when I'm going on the airplane.
I'm the same. I read a whole book when we went backpacking over the summer last year because I didn't have anything else to do. And I actually probably could have read 2 books. I finished the one before we were done with our trip.
Do you like nonfiction or fiction? Or
I like nonfiction.
What kind of
I
historical?
like a lot of the I can't remember all the writers' names now, but like the, former Navy SEALs guys,
Yeah.
right? What was there was a movie on Amazon that was real famous, but about a guy that was a former Special Forces guy. Books like that,
Yeah.
like kind of techie and,
Inspirational.
Yeah.
I like easy reads sometimes, like on the airplane, because,
Yeah.
if I can stop and start and I can figure out
Yeah.
where. But I can also read those books again.
So my suggestion would be to you want to read a book a month, or you want to read 10 books. Make it quantifiable,
That's
because that's what holds you accountable. Because at the end of the week, if you say, I just want to read more books, well, you don't know if you made it or not. So you could read 2 pages and go, I did my goal this week, and you're not really
I just got a new book, and it's really funny. And everybody that comes over to the house, they get a big kick out of it, and it's called Things to Say to Piss Men Off. I'm going to bring them in. I'm going to read you a couple things.
Why did you need a book for that? You have that.
Did
you write that book?
I could have written the book. Some of the things are pretty funny. So I will.
Do you remember any of them? I think one of them would be, are you really going to wear that?
Well, yeah, or it's oh my gosh, there's something in my head I can't remember. Okay, when you tell your story, I'll look it up.
I think the next episode you need to bring that book in, and we need to read from it.
Okay, it's pretty funny. I
think it would be. Pam LeBlanc, who used to write for the Austin Statesman, now she's an author. She writes for Texas Magazine. She's written a book. She's a very famous writer. She just wrote an article about black bears are back in Texas. Did you know that? Yeah, there have not been black bears in Texas.
How come they're back? Did somebody bring them back?
So there have been no bear sightings in Texas since 1950. They all kind of went down to New Mexico, or over to New Mexico, up in the mountains, but the population's coming back. So when there's more bears, then they spread their territories out. So in 2022, people started seeing bears in Terlingua and the Big Bend area, and apparently they're coming back pretty strong.
They're just migrating back.
They're migrating from New Mexico, yeah. So
we need to build a wall then.
Build a wall, yeah.
To stop them bears.
Yeah, that's right. So back in before the 1950s, black bears roamed all across Texas, from the Panhandle to the East Texas woods, all Big Bend, all that area. But then they lost the habitat and they got overhunted, and so black bears just disappeared from Texas.
Can they hunt them here in Texas?
You can. Well, probably not now because there's so few of them. I don't think you can even get a permit
Are
for
black
them,
bears, are they the ones that all you just have to do is rawr, and they'll run away?
They're pretty timid unless they feel threatened.
Okay.
They're omnivores, so they will eat meat, but they mostly eat like berries and things like that, cactus, stuff like that. But they can get pretty big, can get 300-400 pounds. So if one of them feels threatened and comes after you, and they got those big old claws and teeth, I mean, think about a dog that's mad at you that weighs 100 pounds. That's pretty scary. Think about something 3 to 4 times that size that's mad at you.
I like the videos of people will have of the bear like being stuck in their car.
Oh, I know. Just tearing the car.
Tear the car to heck.
Well, there's been some limited sightings in the hill country, so they are actually expanding their territory. So we may actually get to the point where we have to share our community with black bears.
Oh, well, great. So now we'll have the chupacabras, the cougars. And
well, the final thing I'll say on that is that in Pam's article, she said that some people say they're just big, goofy raccoons, but they can be aggressive if threatened. I think if you treat a great big 400-pound black bear as a goofy raccoon, you're in trouble. She finishes off her article by saying, if you do see a bear in your neighborhood, if you live out in wherever, Round Mountain or something, and you see a bear, let all your neighbors know. So you should put up if you have dog food on your front porch, or you have trash cans that are easy to get into, things like that, just common sense stuff. But letting your neighbors know will go a long way.
Yeah, true. That story was almost as good as if I did it. That's pretty good.
Oh, are you saying you're better at me than the story?
No, that's one of the things from the book.
Oh. she remembered. And you know what? It worked. It actually made me a little bit like, what the hell are you talking about, Michelle? That was a good story. So.
That was pretty funny.
Hey, I think we got a bunch of new laws coming in 2025, right?
There's some federal laws. I didn't even touch on those because boring. But there's some new Texas state laws that just went into effect January 1st. They passed over 1,000 new laws that are going to go into effect this year, but just a couple of dozen that are starting January 1st. I think most of them start like September when the new legislation.
Okay.
But one of the biggest ones is the largest property tax cut in Texas history. $18 billion worth of cuts. What it's going to do, it's going to streamline appraisal limitations and tax administration and whatever the heck that means, and also ensures more predictable property tax rates. But I was reading about it, or in some of the comments, it's a little misguided because they're talking about, from the tax standpoint, your property value, not your taxable value. So it doesn't really matter what your property value is until you sell the house. So I don't really know how that's going to transcend into a tax cut. Maybe it's too early to kind of see. I know that when I was at an event and Governor Abbott was there, and Governor Abbott said, just like last year they had rebates, he's gonna do the same thing.
Now it's about time. If they're collecting more money than they need to spend, we need to get that money back, not have it just go into a big pool that they just spend willy-nilly. I think Texas is better than most states at that, but our property taxes are getting very high. We're getting to be one of the highest taxed states now because of our property taxes.
The sad part is part of our retirement, we really want to stay in our house. This is the house that we've raised our children in. We feel comfortable in. We love it. We've just spent, $2 billion renovating it. And there come a time where it's not financial. It doesn't make financial sense because the property taxes for us. Even if our house is paid off, our property taxes are going to be, if we're paying $20,000 a year in property taxes, that's going to be a little crazy. Okay, so one of the big ones that we've talked about over the last couple of years, we were waiting for it, was no more state vehicle inspections. That's not going to happen.
They're still going to make you pay the $7 though.
Isn't that funny? That's the kicker. So no inspection is required, but you still need to pay the $7.50 as an inspection program replacement fee.
I actually don't disagree with that, because what they're going to use that money for is to make sure that commercial vehicles that are on the road are safe. You know how they just like stop big trucks and things? I mean, things falling off of trucks and tires exploding and things like that cause so much damage, much more than, some guy that's driving down the road where his one headlight doesn't work.
Well, they're still going to have, in certain counties, the admissions test is still going to be required. That's
emissions.
I'm sorry.
We're trying to get into Texas State.
Well, that's my Texas accent. Emissions.
Emissions. Yeah. But not here, not in Hayes County.
No, it's Harris, Brazoria, Fort Bend, Galveston, and Montgomery counties, which are all.
I think Bear, too.
Well, that's not what they said.
Oh, I'm pretty sure Bear does.
Well, you mean Behar?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. Behar. Okay, here's the other one. The Texas Data Privacy and Security Act. And what that's going to do, it's going to unify your opt-out feature. So when you're wanting to opt out of something, it's going to have to be consistent across the board. It also restricts the sale, processing of all of our consumer data, and it expands data privacy rights. This actually, they did a soft launch of this in July, August, sometime right around there. But this is when it went into law. So,
is there anything in there about doing away with changing the clock twice a year?
That is what President Trump was saying. He's wanting to do away with that. Yeah.
I know some people they want daylight savings times to stay.
I always get confused. Are we in daylight savings time? Is this daylight savings time or no?
I think daylight savings time is
the other one. I like the other one. I don't like where it's dark.
Well, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with either one. I just don't want changing it twice a year. So. Yeah. Are you done with that story?
Yes, you may continue now.
Well, thank you. Oh, all right. Was that in the book too?
Yeah.
You may continue.
Sweetie, you tried your best. Good job.
Oh, God, jeez. I saw this article and it made me want to do a little research, and I found a bunch of predictions from 100 years ago that scientists and professors and things said were going to happen in 2025.
So 1924,
19
25.
in the
Okay.
early 1900s.
So my
things that people
grandparents,
said.
I think my grandmother was born in 1918, right
Okay,
around there.
so right about that
yeah.
time. So I got a couple here that I thought were pretty funny. Albert Wiggins, who was an American...
Mr. Swiggins?
Mr. Swiggins. Did I say it like that?
No.
He was an American psychologist, said, dull, ugly people were having more children. So by 2025, there would be no good-looking people left. So all the ugly people were having kids, and that was going to do away with beauty in our country.
That is pretty funny.
Yeah.
That is pretty funny. It's quite the opposite.
Yeah, that's
quite
right.
the opposite.
Yeah. Sir Ronald Ross, a British doctor, said people would live to be 150 years old because of scientific advances. Well, that didn't happen. No, I think we're living longer than we did probably in 1925, but only by like 10 years, maybe 10 or 15. H.G. Wells, do you know who H.G. Wells is? The writer?
Yeah.
He did War of the Worlds and The Time Machine.
The reason why I know, what was the the radio broadcast, and they read something about that War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds. Yeah,
Yeah.
they did a radio broadcast, and a bunch of people in the country thought it was
the end of the world.
Yeah, it was a story they were talking about, and it was actually a play written spoken on the radio. So H.G. Wells said, in 2025 there will be only 3 nations: the United States of America, the United States of Europe, and China. Which he's not too
He's
far
not
off.
quite off. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, it's China and the United States of America, the U.S. of Europe. There is the European EU.
That's gonna. I'm
European
telling
Union.
you, I think the world as we know it is going to change for the better with these tariffs, and I'm just saying.
I'm
all
it
for
was
it.
time to shake things up. So,
It is.
Yeah, that's definitely happening. British scientist Archibald M. Lowe expected in 2025 that from his book, The Future, that he wrote in 1925, waking up on time. A very useful service will be the radio alarm clock. Signals will be sent out at frequent intervals on different wavelengths, say between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. every morning. And setting the alarm clock to catch the signal at the desired time will avoid any risk of oversleeping. House and public clocks and watches will be synchronized by signals sent several times daily. He predicted the alarm clock 100 years ago.
That's wild. Do you use an alarm clock?
I use my phone now.
I don't use an
But
alarm
it actually,
clock.
I mean, what he described, your phone syncs to the time.
Yeah.
You know, when the time changes and all that.
He's
So
a witch.
he also said the airport of the future. The air traveler will walk into a comfortable and well-appointed waiting room in the center of the city. An elevator will take him up to the roof where he will step directly into a roomy and really comfortable airplane cabin. There will be no bumping over a hilly aerodrome, but the machine mounted on a turntable will be shot off into the air by catapults and travel through space at over 300 miles an hour.
Yeah, it sounds like you're flying Spirit at one point where you're catapulting.
Just launching you off
Oh
into
my
space.
gosh, the airport videos that have come out of people just do not know how to behave
On
anymore.
an airplane? You know,
Oh,
when I
my
was a kid,
goodness.
people used to get dressed up. It was
Yeah.
a big, I mean, I know we all travel on airplanes
But
a lot
have
more,
you seen people full on pajamas and slippers?
I know,
and
slippers like you're at home in bed. Yeah, come on.
I think this was the year before last, not to kind of go off topic a little bit. There was a year before last. I was on a flight. I was going to California to go see Tate. And this woman had a full down meltdown with her dog carrier. And I was embarrassed for her. I was embarrassed.
Yeah.
But I also had my phone ready in case I needed to
in case you could get a
record
video
it.
that got 1 million hits. Yeah, I got a couple more. Professor Lowell J. Reed predicted the world would face a food shortage in 2025, which he's gotten completely wrong.
Yeah.
So the population in 1925 in the U.S. was 115 million. He predicted 200 million by 2025. It's actually 345 million.
Well,
And people in this country are fatter than ever before.
well, yeah, because they don't eat food. It's not food they're eating.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
chemicals. And I'm excited for RFK. And I asked
agree.
Todd if he has been hoarding his Cocoa Krispies because it's all going to be taken away. Todd eats the crappiest cereal. I like.
Well, he'll still be able to eat it. It just won't be as full of stuff that's bad for you,
It'll
which
just-
probably means it won't taste as
It
good.
really won't taste good. But,
Yeah.
he's almost 63. His taste buds are going anyways, right?
Yeah, that's right. And that's actually true. It does happen. Okay, American historian Roel Strachan predicted San Francisco would be the world's greatest city in 2025.
Oh, greatest city for human excrement.
Yeah,
and
that's right. As Asian countries gain clout, West Coast ports would become more important, and San Francisco and Oakland would be the greatest ports.
Oh, Oakland.
So that San Francisco thing, you and I talked about this. I'm going to go off on a little tangent for about 30 seconds. The San Francisco Health Department hired a fat positivity expert to consult on weight, stigma, and neutrality. Virgie Tovar, the author of You Have the Right to Remain Fat, was hired by the San Francisco Department of Public Health. She says, I'm unbelievably proud to serve the city I've called home for almost 20 years this way.
Wait, do you want to see what she looks like?
I've seen what she looks like, yes. And she says she says something about, her book, You Have the Right to Remain Fat. She's a fat positivity and body acceptance. If you want to know why San Francisco is a laughing stock, just look up her name, Virgie Tovar.
I'm sorry. I don't care what you weigh.
I don't care either.
As long as you're a decent person.
Think about this, though.
But that is a wackadoodle.
Yes. Think about this. The city of San Francisco pays for health insurance for all of the employees of San Francisco. They hired somebody to say, it's okay for you to be fat, even though that's going to cost a lot more money and will probably kill you in the end.
Wait, don't you remember, I think it was like in the 90s or the early 2000s, that insurance companies, health insurance companies, provided through work, were going to start charging you more. I can't remember exactly
If you were overweight?
No, if you were a smoker. Remember? And
It's true. That's a good point.
If you were a smoker.
You do pay more for health insurance. Well, I think they did away with it, but yeah, it used to be. If you can weigh whatever you want, I don't care. The thing about that is, let's not lie and gaslight people and say that you are just as healthy. If you're 400 pounds, you are just as healthy as a 165 pound person.
I think that's all going on the
exercises.
wayside. I think people, like rational, realistic people, are realizing that's baloney.
Yeah.
Baloney.
All right, I'm going to wrap up my story here. There was this guy, Dr. Wentz, who said that people would use a pocket-sized apparatus for communications to see and hear each other without being in the same room. Nailed it. Cell phone, yep. But he also said there would be world peace, a common world currency, and universal free trade.
I think it's because of this that we don't have all of those other things.
Probably
right there.
Probably true.
That's really good.
What's it going to be like in 100 years from now? People that the predictions that are come along.
I don't know. I think that Dripping Springs is going to erect a statue in honor of Steve Mallett and Michelle Lewis.
Yes.
And then 100 years from now, people are going to go, who are those?
They're going to come visit us. They're on the town square,
Lay
which
flowers.
we don't even have. So.
Lay flowers.
Lay flowers at our feet.
Have a road.
A 20-foot tall bronze statue of Mallett and Michelle.
Oh, we should have a Mallett and Michelle way.
Yes.
Like a road. Let's propose it.
Let's call Bill.
Okay, Bill. Mayor Bill.
Bill Folds, yes. Bill
okay,
Folds. Okay,
we're going to work on that. Well, thank you so much. We can't wait to get Trey in here, and we already got him in here, as a matter of fact.
But we're going to take a little break and get ready to set him up for that. So hang on, sit tight. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of being left in the dark when the power goes out? Say goodbye to blackouts with Nomic Power Solutions.
As your full-service Generac dealer, they offer individually designed backup power solutions.
From start to finish, they've got you covered.
Nomic Power Solutions, keeping you powered up.
Call or text 512-387-4232 or visit nomicpower.com. Follow on Instagram at Nomic Power for updates.
Nomic Power Solutions. Protect your home, protect your family, stay ready. Southstar Bank has remained true to its Texas roots for over 100 years. A commitment to the people and communities they serve, along with flexible financial solutions, allow their clients to shine. Mortgage loans, checking accounts, or complete business solutions. Southstar Bank is your financial partner. Southstar Bank, trusted by professionals, backed by tradition, built for Texas.
SouthStarBank.com. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender. NMLS 410624. Find your joy at Jovi Belterra. Life is better here. This vibrant 55 and up community is located in Dripping Springs, just right outside of Austin. 1 and 2 bedroom homes, resort style amenities, and just steps away from shops and restaurants. Forget the yard work. This is your time to relax, make new friends, and enjoy the life you've dreamed of. Find your joy at Jovi Belterra. Life is better here. Live JoviBelterra.com. 737-387-6870.
This show is brought to you in part by the Mallet Integrity Team, serving Dripping Springs, Austin, and the surrounding areas of Central Texas since 2004. When you need the best real estate advice and service, give them a call at 512-829-2062 or email them at malletintegrityteam.com. And now here's Steve and Michelle.
And we are back with Trey Schmidt. He's also known as Fred to some people, but he is with Twisted Electric, which is a local family-owned business here in Dripping Springs. Welcome so much, Trey.
Hello, Michelle.
I'm Steve. I'm over here. Hi, Steve. Welcome to the show, Trey.
Well, Trey
I'm glad you're here.
Trey has helped us, saved our butt.
I know he has. Yeah.
Big time. He has found things that even our cabinet and other people did not find.
So Trey's the electrician that helped you with your recent remodel when your house just about collapsed.
Demolished. And so he's wonderful. But, not only is he an electrician, you're a father, you're a husband, you've grown up here in Dripping Springs. So you were saying that I guess you guys moved here when you were in middle school from Galveston?
Well, I was born in Galveston, but...
Was it Bay City or right around there?
East side of Houston, really where we moved from Crosby. But, yeah, it's been a long time now. You had just asked me when we moved here, and I said, I was 10 years, and you said, middle school is a lot longer than 10 years ago. I hadn't realized how long we've been here. But
what year did you graduate?
2017.
2017. Yeah, so you're between my two kids, Tate and Kendall, give or take.
And I went to school with both of them. So.
Yeah.
Okay. And was your dad an electrician when you came here, or was that something happened?
Your stepdad, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's an electrician. He's since I've ever known him. So
okay. And then so you graduate here from Dripping Springs, and then at what point did you decide I'm going to go to a trade school? I'm going this journey instead of going to college? Because I know there's a lot of pressure at the high school there to send every kid to college.
Well,
or the military.
In school, I didn't do very well, so I knew that going to college was not my route. Now, it wasn't that I knew I'm going to go be an electrician or I'm going to go to a trade school, but I knew I wasn't going to go to college.
Okay.
So when I moved after graduation, I moved down back to Houston area, and I was waiting tables and just doing in and out jobs, moving furniture and
just trying to find your place, trying to figure out what you want to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I was really close with my uncle at the time, and he is an instrument tech in the refineries at Marathon. And he got me joining in on the union, the Galveston County local IBW. And I spent a year with them, and that's really opened the door for the electrical stuff. But I also realized I didn't want to be in the refinery either.
What were you doing?
I was really, every single day you show up and you run pipe to a light fixture or a disconnect on a big oil tank holding reserve thing. They had these big staircases, and we would run lights and up on the
So this was all
stairs.
electrical work. Yes, so
sir.
did they train you to do this, or did you have to go to a school before you could do that work?
Well, in the union, it was work 5 days a week, and you go to school for 2 days a week.
Okay.
After work.
Okay.
So of course they know you're green. They know you don't even know how to use your hand tools yet. So they train you on the job.
Okay.
And then at school, you learned code book at school. They didn't teach you on the job training at school. They teach you code. So you got the best of both, but the refinery work is way different than what we see
Working
today.
at Michelle's house.
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Eating Whataburger.
Is it a
at
little
Michelle's
more
house.
wild, wild west? Kind of like you can kind of do stuff maybe that you wouldn't be able to get away with?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, yes, sir. Yeah, there's not inspectors like there are here.
Interesting.
It's kind of scary. And
I was going to say, you'd think actually at the refinery, you'd be a little more careful because if things don't go right in a refinery, it could be pretty ugly.
I wanted to ask you, you mentioned union. That's a whole kind of different world that probably as a, 19, 20-year-old kid, you had no experience with. What was that like? Is that like, were you required to be part of this union to work at the refinery?
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean,
and you had to pay like a portion of your, there was like dues?
there's dues.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. It was a small due every time you get a paycheck. But the good side is it was like a brotherhood. So there's a whole bunch of little trays in there, like class was like 30 plus people my age doing the same thing, and some were older, some guys were in their 30s maybe, but I don't know. I mean, it's definitely a different experience, but.
So did you did all of your school while you were with the union, or did you have to, when you got out of the union and moved back, did you have additional schooling you needed to do, or did you start working for Twisted Electric right then?
It's all on the job. After, there's multiple ways you can secure your license, but I did all on the job training hours beneath a master electrician, and they sign off on all your time.
Okay.
And basically they supervise you. It's give or take 4 years of supervised work, and they sign off on your hours, and you're eligible to take your journeyman license exam.
Okay.
And that's like kind of passing your finals.
Yeah. Was the test hard?
Very.
Sorry.
I was going to say it's apprentice, right? That's when you first start, and then there's so many hours you have to do that, and then 8,000 hours to be considered a journeyman, and then you go to master electrician. But I think what I was reading, and I'll do research for the monologue. I think Texas is one of the only ones that also requires a year requirement that you have to be like a journeyman or something for 2 years in order to be a master electrician. I think Texas is one of the only states that requires
it's a 2-year. It's another 4,000 hours.
Isn't that crazy?
As a journeyman, because you're whether you work overtime or not, you're granted 2,000 hours a year. And so you do it's 2 more extra years as a journeyman to take the master's exam. And
then you have to have CE classes, continuing ed classes, like
every year,
constantly above the way. Steve touched on this a little bit about going to high school and the whole college, military, trade school. Like I always kind of felt at Dripping Springs High School especially, and it may be totally different, but I felt like it was a culture only for your path to go to college. That was it. It was a funnel, and all of these kids were going to college, and if you were outside of that funnel, you were kind of ignored in one sense. And I feel like now,
$25, Michelle.
$25.
Your phone going off.
It's Kindle.
Oh, surprise!
Shocking. I feel now. I think there's been this like paradigm shift that has happened because people start to realize that college isn't the end all. You're getting out with $100K in debt, and you're still working at Chili's, right? You haven't gained any on-the-job experience. And the benefit with military and or a trade school is that you are on-the-job experience, right? So you're learning as you're going.
And you can't beat that.
No, absolutely not. And the money that you guys make is not a bad gig because you're making money right practically as you're.
And when you become a master electrician, you can go start your own. You have to be a master electrician to have your own electrical company, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
So it's kind of like being a broker in real estate. You can't, no matter how much experience you have as an agent, you can't go start your own brokerage if you're not a broker.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I was going to ask you, you mentioned CE classes. Are the CE classes the continuing education classes, are they mostly about keeping up with codes as they're updated?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, that is interesting because Steve and I've been to a couple of classes with inspectors. And one of the things that struck me was the last class that we went to about the inspector. He said, no matter what, whenever an inspector walks through, something is going to be out of code because code is constantly being updated. So like when you go into a residence or a business, if you're touching that panel, does everything have to be up to code because you're touching that panel, or are there perimeters that you can stay within? Are
Yeah, I
you
mean, I'm not
grandfathered in?
required to necessarily fix every code violation unless, of course, an inspection report is done. Say somebody's selling a house.
Right.
The inspection report says they have, bonded neutrals and grounds, like the most common.
Explain that to me, because I see that on inspection reports all the time. I don't know what that means. Bonded neutrals and grounds.
It's just a jumper from the neutral bar to the ground bar that, I don't know exactly when they required it to be separated, but, they want you separating them now.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's, like I said, you don't have to fix everything, but if it's an easy one, you're there anyway.
You bring it up to code.
Right.
What do you think about, because another one that we have now is arc fault breakers.
Yes, sir.
And so now current code requires those.
Yeah.
And I have some in a couple of my rentals, and they suck. They're constantly.
What are they? What is an arc fault
Well, there you
breaker?
go, Trey.
Well, they have sensing functionalities, like they can sense nicks in wires. They can sense, obviously, overloads. They can sense heat. There's...
And they'll trip?
They trip, yes, ma'am. And
Constantly.
then and sometimes they take a while. Your house is new. It might take months for it to find the fault. But usually once it does, it
just
trips constantly.
trips,
So
yeah.
it's a matter of going into the switches, going into the light fixtures, finding nicks, seeing if anything melted. There's signs somewhere,
yeah.
but it could be stuff in the walls too, like a staple's too tight on the wire, or a screw went through it. But usually the screw through it, you're not going to.
Right.
You're going to know that one right away.
How are you finding it? You're kind of like a ghost hunter, right? So you're like
Ghost hunter.
Yeah, like you're just like you're using a voltmeter and you're like beep 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 beep.
It's
beep, beep.
experience, really. You just, once you have the general knowledge of how homes are wired and whatnot, you have to break down the circuitry sometimes. Like I can tell you exactly what wire. Now, identifying exactly where, like that nail went through, it's very hard unless I can just see it.
Yeah.
Unless it's something that is very visible. But I can at least tell you what wire on the circuit is compromised and, get you a new wire from here to there to bypass that one.
Okay.
It is pretty crazy. You think, it's an everyday occurrence. You go into a room, you turn the switch on, you turn your hairdryer on, your electric toothbrush or whatever it is. It's something that you're not even thinking about. And then somebody who lives it and breathes it every day, I'm wondering if you go into places sometimes what is the name of that? Oh, why am I escaping? What's the name of that bar on South Lamar that's been there forever and ever? It's a country bar. Shoot.
The
Broken Spoke.
Broken Spoke.
You go into places like that and you're like, holy hell, this is a fire hazard waiting to happen. Because, we've seen things in real estate that would blow normal people's mind that people just have lived with forever and ever. What are some of the...
Yeah, I was going to say, that was one of my questions, was worst well, I have two actually, but the worst electrical errors you've ever seen. Because we've seen like open wires in attics, open wires underneath the sink, things like that. What's the worst thing you've ever seen?
Like the worst install?
Yeah.
You must see a lot of them if you can't even remember the one.
There's quite a few faults. It's hard to pinpoint one exact, issue I ran into.
Or
like,
scary.
wow.
Like, did you walk in there and you're like, oh my gosh.
What's
like,
the
I've
thing
opened
that-
a few panels. It's usually a panel, because they can be really nice and clean, or they can be a total rat nest. And like, for instance, this separated neutrals and grounds could be an all-day ordeal, depending on if the panel is clean or just rat nest. That's usually the biggest one is the panel work.
So that's just where the wires come in, and some guys make them real nice and even and put them all in place, and some guys just stretch them all over the place. And
yes, sir.
And, okay, that makes sense.
What about these going into an older 1940s, 1950s home versus these new builds that were just slapped up like dominoes? Like, what do you what are you seeing the difference there? I mean, obviously, it was definitely a craft back in the 40s and the 50s when they were doing these. But a lot of them, what was it, copper wiring and
Yeah, well, copper is common now. It was like aluminum
wiring.
and it was another like tube and knob wiring. I think is what they
tube and
call
knob,
it.
uh-huh.
That's way back.
Yeah, you can't even splice into it. You know, once you find it, you got to rerun it. You know,
the whole thing.
Ideally,
In order to rewire a whole house, like an older house, do you have to like fully take it down to the studs, or are you able to just like piecemeal it together?
I mean, it depends on the access. Like if I can access through the attic or under the floor, I can get a lot. But of course, there's going to be sheetrock holes. You know, that's a given. But no, I don't need to strip the whole house down. There's not really a need for that usually.
I was going to ask you, that was one of my questions I was going to get to. Do you ever go in and you fix an electrical problem and you're getting ready to leave and the owner says, well, you left holes in the drywall or you had to, pull that piece of wood off. Aren't you going to fix that? And how do you handle that? Because you're not a drywall guy. You're not a tile guy. You're not a carpenter.
I can tell you from my experience, he was very respectful. He was like, okay, I can move this from here to here, but I'm going to have to put a couple of holes.
Yeah, very upfront.
Yeah.
There's not very many, actually never a time where I've been in the process and, I didn't know I was going to make that hole. It doesn't come up very often.
Okay.
Now I have drilled down from an attic and come through the sheetrock before. I've had helpers do that.
Yeah.
I've even drilled from the wall up and gone through the roof of the house.
I have to tell you the cleanest thing that I saw he did, because I thought it was going to be a nightmare. And I've talked about this before, my bougie Toto toilet, he took from the other side of the wall, the plug, and the other side of the wall. And I didn't have a hole, anything. It was just like, boop. It was like this plug. It was like
So
Jesus wanted me to have this toilet.
Jesus wanted you to have a clean butt. So did you go through the attic and then drill down the wall? Is that how you got that?
At her install, she had an outlet on the adjacent wall, and it was within the same stud base. So I was able to come out the side of the existing outlet and go through the wall horizontally versus going all the way up and over.
It was clean.
No, that's cool.
It was beautiful, Trey. It was absolutely beautiful until we built our cabinets, and now our cabinets are like 6 feet deep, and he has to get in there and crawl in there.
I had on here, we may have covered it already, electrical horror stories, like things that you've worked on that went seriously wrong while you were in the middle of doing it.
I've had the worst project that I could have been on was a house out in Steiner Ranch, and it was a full rewire. And I wasn't the lead guy until the fourth crew. Okay. So there was three other crews that had been and come and gone. And when I showed up, that crew just abandoned me. And, it wasn't your typical house with standard light switches and plugs. It was smart switching with keypads everywhere. So the attic was just a nightmare of all the switches and all the smart functionalities were all. So, I mean, I think I spent like 3 months straight on that remodel.
Oh my gosh.
Well, and that was after sheetrock. So this is just putting smart switches in and troubleshooting issues. And, I mean, majority of those 3 months was attic time, just sitting in the attic. With a flashlight, and
I hope it was February and not August.
It wasn't bad. No, it wasn't bad.
So that leads me to, we have people that have moved into homes that, their smart capabilities and electric fireplaces and things that kind of talk to you on apps, and the previous homeowner hasn't really left instructions about this. Are you able to kind of go in there after the fact if a new homeowner goes into someone else's smart home and they're dumb and help them kind of learn where all of this goes?
Yeah, majority. Now the one that I was mentioning, Steiner Ranch, that one is way high tech. So, and you have to have access to their home.
Home network.
Basically, yeah. So you got to have the technology on a computer and be certified with that company to even log it, because like their low voltage wireman guys who provided all the smart stuff can access your house, that house, from anywhere so you had to be licensed with them to access that kind of stuff. So like I couldn't go in there today and provide them with the same switch. But their low voltage guy won't install it. They'll give it to you. You pay for it from them, but they won't install it because it's a high voltage switch. But there's a big gray area on some of those things. But of course, like the Home Depot smart stuff, the Amazon, all the local stuff we can get easily. Of course, I can work with that, and I can sign you in on Wi-Fi. I mean, it's just simple. Download the app, and you're in.
It sounds kind of scary that someone could have access to your stuff in that sense. It's kind of like, do you remember back in the day, my house had those in-wall
intercoms?
Pest control.
Oh, yeah.
And they had like a certain key and only that certain pest control. It was such crap.
What a scam.
Yeah, it was total crap. Where is the worst area to work in Texas Hill Country as far as like permits and people check your like I wouldn't say inspectors and things like that. When I say worse, like overreach, not like, hey, we're monitoring you for the safety, but I'm talking overreach, and I'm saying it's probably Lake Travis.
I would say City of Austin.
I was going to say City of Austin,
and which includes like Lake Whaley, Travis. I mean, it's almost anywhere with Austin Energy is extremely hard to work with.
Really, is it like just permits after permits after permits that you guys have to pull?
Well, it's only one permit usually, but it's all the different bulletins they make you check off from head to toe, and you got to know the process. So, this is still new to me being up here doing all this and running projects, especially in the city of Austin. Like, it's one thing in town or in Blanco right here local that, you're not worried about those guys. As long as you do, what you're doing, you're fine. But when you have to go and do a certain process of things, you have to learn it, and then you have to remember it for the next one, because and
it changes, and the next time you do it'll change. That's
and you never
sometimes.
had the same guy.
That's the thing, yeah.
You never had the same inspector almost. So, and when you do, you're very lucky. But they all want different stuff. So they'll come and they'll say, a temporary green tag or a what did he call it that last time? Not necessarily temporary, but
it's a red tag is like you have to stop.
A conditional
approval, right. And so, and they note all that on their system, and the next guy is supposed to check that, but he might check that and then
add something else,
that somebody might have missed. You everybody has a way of doing things, and like you're saying, the code, and it's all a lot of it is interpretation. How you read it is different than you read it versus
That's
me.
That's the same like with inspectors as well. We heard a story, this was a couple of years ago, that in Lakeway there was an inspector that showed up to somebody's house that was changing their own toilet out. Do you remember this story? No. And they gave them a fine for not having a permit for changing their toilet. Apparently they followed them from Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever. And it was like, you have to have a permit to change your own toilet out?
I didn't think you did for that.
But I mean,
if
certain crazy things.
If in the city of Austin, if I have regular light switches and I want to put these stupid switches that sense people coming and going, do I have to get a permit for that?
No, sir. Okay. No, most of it is obviously remodels.
Okay.
And new services or an upgrade to the service.
Okay.
Or when it gets really hard is like storm damage. You can't just, like here in town when we had the big freezes, we were able to just rebuild a service that homeowner would call PC and they get turned back on, as quick as possible. To go do storm storm damage cleanup in the city of Austin, it's all permits. So at that, if you can't get online, you can't pull the permits, you can't call inspections, that it's not as easy as just fix it and go.
What we see sometimes when we're helping people buy and sell property in Austin is that there are permits that were pulled that aren't closed out. And that's the responsibility of the contractor, right?
Yes, sir.
So the inspector approves everything, signs off on it, and then you have to go file it with the city or something?
Well, it could be a few things. Like, I mean, I'm not for sure on this, but I've heard stories of, like, for instance, a long time ago I was working in Houston. I was working with a company called RES, and that company was granted a job at the Michoacana meat market. It was a full remodel of the whole meat market. Well, that contractor basically, went bankrupt, took their money, ran Michoacana's money. And Billy had a permit there, and, he basically wasn't gonna close it out until his money issues were resolved with it. So there's a few things.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
It's not so much that they just didn't close it. There's usually something that happened.
There's reasons. What do you think is the one thing that you wish homeowners knew about their electricity, which that you find common sense because you're in the business?
Well, it's hard because all the houses, different time frames are different.
Yeah, different builds.
Yeah, so I don't know.
I'll kind of piggyback on that and follow up with it. In our real estate world, people say very similar things to us every time we go visit with them. Are there things that people say to you almost every time that you go on a job you're hired for that you have to kind of set them straight?
Building in front of electrical boxes, maybe.
Yeah,
yeah, and closets. That's an issue, panels and closets. But
or how about also? I think this was a big issue in Austin. Is like basically calling before you dig. Like when it's the spring and people are digging and doing their yards and stuff, and now they've hit something. You're like, oh, well, maybe you should have called and had it all sprayed out.
And that's got to be a mess, right?
Well, the 811. I don't know if there's like third-party companies that will come out and do post-primary, but the 811 only does primary, so they only find, before the meter or before the gas meter or before the electric meter. They won't, like, say I put a conduit in somebody's ground after the meter, they won't go find it.
Oh, okay. So somebody could put a shovel through that.
Absolutely.
I got a couple of sort of general questions for you, Trey. Solar panels on houses. Did you guys ever get involved in installing
No, we're
those?
not a solar company. I did do a few months of solar in Houston after the refineries, and roofs are just not my thing.
Scary.
Yeah.
I went to put Christmas lights up this year on the high peak, and I got up there. I'm like, I'm not doing it.
Sorry, kids.
I'm not afraid of electricity, but I'm afraid of heights.
Yes, sir. Yeah, the heights. It's so much of the just looking down off the roof.
Yeah. Do you have an opinion on whether solar panels are an investment or just a scam?
I don't.
Never really
I think
did.
it's a scam because we moved into this house here, and we had this solar company, and he comes door to door, and he's trying to sell me on solar panels, and I did this so and so's house, I did this dude's house, and this dude's house.
You're like, liar.
Like that's fine, but they keep using these words like, you reinvested into your home, the equity of your home, and they keep using the same little slogans.
Buzzwords, yeah.
And you can tell that they are in a trained environment, and they're like, if you just keep saying these few things, that they don't, the homeowner really doesn't understand.
Yeah.
And you get it. You understand.
Yeah, well, kind of, but also they're so persistent. I'm like, we just moved in. I'm not putting holes in the roof.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I'm just, and because they don't answer the question of, what happens when it leaks?
Yeah.
They don't ever answer that question.
No, I just say no is a complete sentence. No.
Yeah.
Well, then like months go by and he sends you another text. Hey, this is so-and-so. Are you interested in checking out what we built for your home? I'm like, it's been like 3 months, man. Like,
I just feel like it's a sales thing. There's not much benefit to the homeowner. Like we had a house that we sold in Sunset Canyon, and it had huge solar panels on it. And during the inspection, it was discovered that the roof needed replaced because it had a bunch of hail damage. Well, think about it, but it was like, $18,000 to have the panels taken
removed,
off. Just the panels taken off, not the cost of the roof. Then they replaced the roof, and then, the $18,000 was the removal and the reinstallation of the panels on the new roof.
And they wouldn't guarantee that they didn't get damaged taking them off, and that, so it was just kind of.
There's a bunch of loopholes.
Yeah. I don't know. But
I didn't want to go get too far into it. Once like I said, once we talked and he came inside and we talked, I was like, I don't know.
See, that was your
you
first
trust
step.
in your gut.
That was your first mistake. You shouldn't have ever let him cross the threshold.
We had a pest control guy come too, and my wife's brother owns a pest control here in town, and that dude was giving me the spiel in the garage. He was filling my head. And I'm calling the wife. I'm like, don't we have somebody in the family who's a pest control guy? Why am I even talking to this guy right now?
You know
I
what,
don't
Trey? You get a little older, I shut those conversations down so fast. And like they'll come walking up the driveway and like, hey, man. I'm like, no, I am not interested. Just go away.
Well,
and
they'll
if they
see
keep
you with
going,
your
I'm like,
kids.
no.
They'll see with the kids at the.
Yeah.
I'll hold the baby and Riley is yelling at me or I want a snack or something, and then the dude is giving me the full
doesn't
spiel.
care.
I'm like,
Yeah.
He doesn't care. You know, you mentioned I want to go back to you being a father. And you are, as I've known you since you were a teenager, and now you're a husband and you're a dad and you have 2 little boys. And what do you think is the most surprising thing about fatherhood that just like you didn't expect? You and I were talking a couple of weeks ago, and I said, doesn't it make you laugh now about thinking about how hard sometimes you were on your own mother? And you said, I remember when my mom said, call me any other name but mom right now. Because, you know, think about it. You know, like dad, dad, mom. Like,
Never
stop.
really. Yeah. That, I mean, I didn't necessarily not expect that, but Riley's very persistent.
Yeah,
You know,
they
and,
can be.
I'm telling you, so you're talking and you can't tell them enough, like, don't talk while we're talking, you know, just wait your turn, bud. You know, you can only say it so much, you know, and before you finally just say,
Stop.
what do you need?
Yeah,
You know, like,
yeah.
let's just put this conversation on hold and what do you need, Riley? And you think that's it, and then the next thing,
Yeah.
and then the other kid comes up, and you know, you get one kitty yogurt, you gotta get the other.
Of course, because life's not fair. You gave him a yogurt.
Yeah, and that's another one. That's not fair. That's not fair.
Yeah. I've told my kids when they were younger, they would say, "That's not fair." And I go, "Well, life's not fair. Get over it." That came back to haunt me when they got a little older. But
Steve tells me that all the time.
I do.
He tells
That's
me
not
that.
fair.
He tells me life's not
Life's
fair.
not fair, Michelle.
One of the questions, I had a funny question for you. And what is it like being the son of AA?
Wow, it's
Well, you better explain that because not.
Well, that would
everybody's
be also known as Amanda Anderson,
who runs the
Dripping Springs Neighbors, and she was like our second or
Facebook page.
third
Yeah.
guest and she has gotten a lot of shit over the years and a lot of grief, and she gives it right back, and I love that about her.
well, I mean, being the son, you know, it has its goods and its bads, but you don't know. The biggest issue I run into is not knowing who to tell.
Oh,
You know, because like I work here, so and we run service calls, and sometimes they already know, and sometimes they make suspicions and ask, or
They've been banned from the page.
you know, you never know. You know, you don't know how they feel about the page. It's kind of like talking politics to customers. You don't, you know, you just try not to you try to avoid the conversation, and that's kind of where I'm at now. Unless I know the lady, or I'm getting the vibe that we view the topic
world,
the same.
Yeah.
You know, it might come up, but you know, that's the issue. The biggest thing is just not knowing.
Have
where
you
to
had
talk.
it blow up in your face though, where you thought it was okay to mention, and somebody just starts giving you grief about it?
No,
okay.
no,
That's
not
good.
with AA. With Californians.
Oh,
yes.
yeah?
Yeah, I've had that happen to me. Yeah, and I felt real bad, you know. But
What do they say?
Well, I'm from California.
Oh,
But
yeah.
to my defense, the best helper I had was from California.
Yeah.
And so I would always give him trouble. It don't matter what he did. Like, that's what we're from California, you know, and you're at a customer's house and they catch on, they hear you or whatever. And sometimes, you know, they laugh it off and they're like, well, that's why we moved. Or sometimes, well, I'm from California. Well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend anybody.
Yeah,
It's just,
that's
just
funny.
work shop talk, you know.
Do you view now parenthood a lot differently than you think you did when you were, you know, a smart aleck teenager?
Oh, absolutely.
It's pretty humbling, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you definitely, especially because Riley's a lot like me. And so I'm like, you change how you look at your dad, you change how you look at your mom, your step parents, your
siblings.
everybody. You know, you really, sometimes some of those changes are for the good and some of them for the bad, but, you know, it's just part of it.
You
So,
really realize that as a parent, you really make this stuff up as you go along, right? Like you've been a 4-year-old boy before, but you've never raised a 4-year-old boy. And I used to say that to my daughter all the time. It's like, I was a 16-year-old girl, but I've never raised one of you. You know, I'm making this up as I go along.
And you're supposed to have the answer.
Yeah, you don't.
You have to have that figured out.
They
Yeah.
expect you to, but you, most of the time you just shoot from the hip. Like, let's see if this works.
Yeah, and I think the biggest, I've said this in the past, I think the biggest gift you can give your kids is the ability to admit when you were wrong. When you, like, if you flew off the handle about something and it wasn't about them, about what they were doing, just later going, hey, buddy, I'm sorry. Daddy had a hard day at work. I'm just tired. That wasn't about you. Do you want to read a story or whatever? Just like being able to be in that present, because those little kids, they literally think that you are their entire world. There is nothing else. That's why the dad.
Yeah. It's like almost like you're God at that point. Like you have all the answers all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
What about, you told me this funny story, and I want you to tell this story to Steve because I thought it had just happened. So you love hunting, you love fishing, you love going out there and just letting your boys be boys and roll around in the dirt and just do boy stuff. And you were out on a little adventure by yourself in your four-wheeler. And walk us through what happened with that. It wasn't very old, right? This four-wheeler?
No, it wasn't a very old four-wheeler. Now it did sit for a while at mom's. So, old gas and gas lines don't usually mix. So I suspect something along those lines, but I don't know. I was just riding, heading out to the stand. There was no issues, and then I just lost power. And I looked down, like the whole buggy shut off. I looked down, and there's just flames shooting outside the four-wheeler.
But wait, there's more.
Okay.
So of course I jump off and I grab all the water I have, all the beer I have, just start throwing it, but it's like underneath the gas tank in the engine. So there's really no real way of getting any moisture in there. So then I started thinking, well, I need to get the seat off and I'm going to fan it.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. So I'm like, all right, I'm calling it off. So I get on the phone with him and I walk them through where I'm at, and I'm in the middle. I'm in Concan, so it's country. There's not service hardly at all. So I walk them through it, and they come back there, and before it hit me, there's just gunshots going off.
His guns are on.
Oh, no way.
I left one of my pistols in the compartment of the four-wheeler. So then it was shooting off rounds all just over and over and over and over.
Where were you
my
hiding?
gosh.
Like, what were you?
I walked down the hill. I walked about 200 yards down the hill into the creek bed, and I just
hid there.
I just was on the phone until it was like 15 rounds. It finally stopped, and then I walked up, and it was just I lit up every tree within 20 feet of me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, if it had been windy, it would have been real bad.
Real big fire. What that gun? Did you get the gun out of there after you got the fire out?
Yes, sir.
That look like?
It's melted to it was actually melted to a piece of plastic. It's on a big piece of melted plastic, like 2-foot plastic, and it was melted to the rocks on the ground. So it's got rocks attached to it. It's like I need to plaque it and put it
I
on
was
the
going
wall
to say
somewhere.
that's a frameable.
Because you
Here's
can
my
actually
hunting
see
trophy.
the details of the gun. Still, you can tell exactly what it is. It's crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, it needs to be hung somewhere or something.
Yeah, you
It's
should,
memorabilia.
man. Yeah.
Isn't that scary
quite a
to
story,
think about that?
And then we had to get the four-wheeler out. That was the whole other ordeal, was getting that thing back home. I broke every strap I had because it's all sharp edges.
Yeah.
So when you're strapped down and you're bouncing, and I pull over to the gas station, every strap is broken. So it's just been a frame, been riding on the trailer 2 hours. It was a nightmare.
What a mess.
Yes,
yeah.
sir. Yeah.
I'm going to ask my last question, and then you can do
I got some rapid
your,
fire.
rapid fires. So, Trey, I don't do much electrical work, but every time I do, I go turn the breaker off and whatever, I'm changing a light switch or something, and I go to touch the hot wire. I hate doing that. I know it's off. Do you still get that little, is it hot or not? Do you get that feeling? You know it now, huh?
No, and even if it's hot, I would rather arc it and make it and strip it.
Yeah.
Knowing.
What does it feel like when you?
Depends on where you get it.
Oh,
Yeah, I know.
I guess that is true.
I had gotten a crazy one. I was working on a dishwasher disposal circuit, and I had the hot in my clines, which when you grab it with your clines, it's fine. It's not going to shock you. But for some reason, when I touched my elbow to the edge of the sink, the metal sink, it was the biggest shock I ever got. I jumped up off my feet. I don't know. what caused that. I didn't investigate it. I was like, that hurt really bad.
Didn't want to do it again.
Turn it off, and of course, I checked the outlet, checked the switch in it, and I mean, there's no sign of why that happened to me, but
Wouldn't there have to be some kind of connection to the sink in order for that shock to happen?
That's what I would imagine.
Yeah.
But
So
the
when
way I
you're
see it is it's theory. There's AC theory and DC theory.
Yeah.
It's all there. It doesn't say anywhere that it's facts.
Yeah.
It's theory.
Yeah.
So, like I said, interpretation. I interpreted that like, ow, it hurt. I just said, okay, I'm done.
I haven't been shocked in a long time, knock on wood, but man, I don't like it. It hurts. It's an uncomfortable feeling.
You talked about turning the circuit breaker off. Is it always advised to turn the circuit breaker off versus just if you're going to change like a light, like a ceiling fan or something, to turn the light off or
turn the main off?
Turn the main off.
I mean, as long as if you're like working on a light fixture or something, as long as the switch is in the off position, that's pretty much it. But it also depends on the year of the house, because a lot of times back in the day they would run the hot to the light fixture and then switch leg down and loop it, switch loop it.
Yeah.
And so you still had hots in there, even if that light is off.
Yeah.
That switch is off. So
it didn't go through the switch and then up to the light switch. The hot came to the light, and then another wire went down to the switch that controlled whether it was on.
So there was
or
still
off.
hot sitting in there. You tie in the wrong, because they're all black and white. You tie in the wrong set or you touch the wrong set.
So turn it off. Turn it off at the main.
I would.
Turn it off. I know
If I was a homeowner and didn't know, I would just turn it off. And a lot of times people go outside and then turn everything off. So
then you got to reset all your clocks.
Todd likes to play, and you and I
that.
were talking about this. Todd likes to play this. Is it this one? And I'm like, can we just freaking label him? Is it this one? Is it off? Is it off? Is it off? Label it. Did you find it? Label it.
Well, once you find it, chances of you having a pin on you.
Label it.
Yeah, exactly.
Label
it's easier to we'll worry about that later, and then later comes and you don't worry about it.
It's a worry about. We're going to worry about it later. Okay, so I have a couple of rapid fire questions. If you had to do only one extracurricular activity forever, you could only choose one: hunting or fishing.
I probably would go. Well, that's the thing. When you say forever, like
forever,
and hunting, you can't hunt all year round.
Oh, you can fish.
You can fish all year round, but I mean, I guess you could hunt all year round if you weren't just hunting whitetail. If you had access to hunt exotics and stuff, I probably would do that.
You'd like the hunting. Okay.
I did a lot of fishing as a kid, though.
Well, where you grew up, for sure.
Yeah. So
in Galveston.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, even in all the Houston areas, there's water everywhere. So even if you're on the east side of Houston, you're fishing in the ponds and the rivers.
Todd's a fisherman. He's not. He's not a hunter at all. Okay, so what's harder, working up in an attic, the Texas summer or one of those good old cold snap Texas winters? What's harder? Yeah.
Oh, I would recommend the cold. I would take the cold in the attic, in a ditch, in a new build, I would take the cold all day. But I mean, I'm over the heat. I get real fed up about June.
I was going to say, being up in an attic in July or August is like...
you need one of those little fans that go around your neck.
It won't help.
No, it doesn't. No. And I mean, you schedule your attic jobs for the morning time. That's like the best you can do. But by 10, when it's summer, by 10, you can't breathe.
I don't even I have one house that the air conditioning filters in the attic, and I replace it in August or September. I don't even like going up there just to do that. It only takes 5 minutes.
And that's where it dies. Okay, so what's scarier to hear as a homeowner or an electrician? A hum, a buzz, or a pop?
Scarier?
Yeah. What's like things like, I should probably, if I'm hearing a hum, is that like the level? Is it hum, buzz, pop?
Yeah, in that order too, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, if it were me, I'd be scared to hear the pop,
What's a hum?
Loose connection.
Could it be a loose connection or a light bulb? Like, could be a different kind of light bulb or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
What creates the hum?
Well, when it's loose, because electricity vibrates. When you put loads on it, it has a vibration in it. Not like you can't feel it, you can't see it, but it does.
Just a little vibration.
And so when, you're not tightening the screw all the way, you don't tighten the lugs all the way. Or the wire nuts, it definitely can hum.
And it could cause issues?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, like vibrating electricity and a loose connection that's a quick burn up.
Okay.
Really?
Well, when I say burn up, I mean, it'll melt.
Okay, Todd.
Whatever you're working on, it'll melt.
Fix that humming dining room light
Yeah,
that I
no
hear.
kidding.
Yeah.
What was it?
just-
What was hum, what, and pop?
It's hum, buzz, and pop.
Buzz. Buzz is the similar thing, but it's much worse.
Yeah, I would say just a little dramatic of a hum.
Okay.
But, you know,
It's a.
it's kind of the same. Yeah, it's like, hey, look, I actually am gonna burn now. You know?
It's
And
it's
then
buzzing.
the pop is like, hey, I'm done.
Oh yeah, this is burned up. Does the pop usually accompanied by that sick smell, that burnt smell, that electrical burnt smell? I hate that smell. That's like, oh, that smells expensive.
That,
But when
yeah,
you
that,
open
does,
it up,
that
it's
smells
really
like money.
nasty.
That smells
Yeah.
like money. Okay, so this isn't really a question, but it kind of is. It's a joke. What's an electrician's favorite exercise? Can you get it?
An exercise.
Okay, you didn't get it too long. Circuit training.
That's a dad
I
joke
wouldn't have gotten that one.
from a mom.
It is. You're right.
You feel free to use that one, Trey.
Yeah, you're right. Feel free. I'll give you permission for that.
Yeah.
Trey, thank you so much for joining us here. I know that you're super busy and I cornered you but I just thought it was important that people understand, college is not the end all everything. And the fact that I had 2 kiddos go to trade school as well. And I think it's great. You're getting right into your profession. You're learning your trade immediately.
Making money right out of high school.
And here you are, you're supporting, a family of 4 and doing a dang good job of it. So I'm really proud of you and the nice young man that you've become in this career.
Well, I appreciate that. I didn't make it by myself like that. So
No, but
there's been a lot of help and people along the way, even today. So it isn't just me.
Yeah, it's big that you recognize that there's a lot of people there that helped you get where you are.
If you had to-
really, when you said supporting the family, the family forward, it's not just me. That's where it got me. It's like, it's really not just me. There's all the white Tiana makes does her share of everything.
Oh, yeah.
And then some. So
Yeah, it's a partnership for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Who do you think, if you could name right now your biggest mentor in this path to where you are? Who helped you as far as the journey, the career that you have right now?
Well, I would definitely, like, the first person to come to my head is my stepdad Kirk. That's the given. He'd been there since I was 4. So, and we've been through hell and back.
Yeah.
So, to have what we have right now and the relationship that we all have as a family, me and even mom and everybody, I would say that his influence on me is a big deal.
That's
Well,
great.
no pun intended, but it's been a journey, man.
Yeah.
It has.
Right?
Yeah. I don't have a bad joke like that to follow up with, Trey, but thank you very much for coming in. It's been a lot of fun, and you taught me a lot about some of the stuff that I wasn't sure about. So thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you guys for having me.
Our pleasure.
Find your joy at Jovi Belterra. Life is better here. This thoughtfully designed 55-plus community is paired with resort-style amenities and social activities. They offer 1- and 2-bedroom homes located in Dripping Springs, the gateway to the Hill Country. Make friends, make memories, make time for you at Jovi Belterra. Live JoviBelterra.com, 737-387-6870.
From rodeo clowns, teachers or doctors, and everyone in between, Texans have one thing in common: hard work deserves smart banking. At Southstar Bank, whether you're buying your first home, building a dream ranch, or just managing daily finances, our 16 branches across Central Texas are here for you. Southstar Bank, trusted by professionals, backed by tradition, and built for Texas. SouthstarBank.com, member FDIC, an equal housing lender, NMLS 410624.
Nomic Power Solutions, keeping you powered up.
Get to know your local full-service Generac dealer.
Cody and Dylan with Nomic Power Solutions are a veteran-owned, Texas-based Generac dealer and installer.
Offering low monthly payment options, it's never been easier to gain independence from the grid.
Call or text 512-387-4232 or visit nomicpower.com. Follow on Instagram at Nomic Power for updates.
Turnkey service including design, plumbing, electrical, and permits.
They even offer set it and forget it maintenance plans.
Nomic Power Solutions. Protect your home. Protect your family. Stay ready.
This show is brought to you in part by the Mallet Integrity Team, serving Dripping Springs, Austin, and the surrounding areas of Central Texas since 2004. When you need the best real estate advice and service, give them a call at 512-829-2062 or email them at malletintegrityteam.com.
You know you like us, so go now to Apple Podcast or Spotify and leave us a review. Why don't ya? We love your feedback and comments. Email us at malletandmichelle@gmail.com.
Thanks for putting up with us.